Hello everybody, welcome to Bass and Bonsai. This is how you do it. Big, giant, largemouth bass. And oh yes, she's a kisser. Mwah. Hello everybody, welcome to the show. I want to talk real quick today about the difference, and this is for pretty much beginners, but the difference between how I would fish a place if I'm a bank fisherman or if I'm in a boat. The main thing I really want to cover is the baits you use. I use about the same bait, same rod or reel. You kind of have to go with the same mentality of, covering water, hitting places that, look the most productive spots you think they'll be, and then move it along. So I'm not going to go into huge detail about that, not how to fish, but how when I was fishing from the bank and how I recommend for you guys opposed to fishing out of a boat. The biggest thing is actually baits. And for me, I'll further explain that is how much money I'm going to spend and what kind of baits I'm going to throw that may not come back. Because when you're fishing from the bank, and if you guys haven't fished from the bank in a while or just new beginning, may not remember what it feels like when you throw a $20, $25, some of these baits nowadays $30 to $50 bait out. Even if it's a floating bait and say it breaks off or whatever from the bank, you can't go get it. Or you throw, a high dollar mega bass bait, goes down, gets hung up in some brush somewhere, and it's lost. Unless you're actually the person that's going to swim out and dive down and, get it. You can't use a lure retriever and stuff like that. It's just almost impossible. So the first thing I would recommend is stick with cheaper baits. I know that a lot of people are telling you get the best you can buy, but I would recommend stick with cheap baits initially. Now, as you get more into fishing, or if you know certain baits that you just want to get that work, but I'd stay away from mega bass personally if I was fishing from the bank. Now, that's just in general. Try to get the cheapest you can. Like I wouldn't be throwing the jackhammers. I'd be throwing the Z-Man Originals. If I was throwing chatterbaits, I'd be getting some cheap squarebills like the Cabela's Diggets. I'd recommend those. I recommend anything that's cheaper to start with but still good quality. Do your research. Don't just buy the cheapest stuff you see on AliExpress or eBay, because you'll probably be let down. Some of that stuff's alright, some's not. Those poppers, that kind of thing. Now the bait that I love, and you've seen me fish this year, but I do not recommend throwing from the bank unless you know what's out there, are these little guys. These are probably the stickingest, easiest to find brush bait you'll come across. Maybe a deep diver would be the only other thing. And that's another bait I never hardly threw from the bank when I was a bank fisherman. It's something. Now this one is supposedly a little better, but any of these crazy deep diving baits that have this big bill that's going to go down and could possibly get hung up in who knows what, I'm just telling you guys. If you're fishing from the bank, and those of you who've done it for a while, we'd probably also recommend these will be gone in no time. Same thing with the rattle traps and lipless cranks. They are suckers and find the you can find brush real easy with these. So what I recommend first off is like what I kind of started fishing with would be your spinnerbaits. Spinnerbaits, chatterbaits, little swim bait stuff that is going to maybe hit something and bounce off of it. Squarebills are also another good one. Jerk baits, not really so much. Jerk baits, yes, out in open water, but I'll show you baits. So I'll show you baits that I do recommend. The Cabela's Dig It series, they're like $3.99 a bait. You can order a pack of 5 for like 20 bucks, something like that. But these little square bills and the small hooks they have will just go through brush and all kinds of stuff. And that's the biggest thing, that when you're fishing from the bank, and if you see a tree out there or whatever, is how to approach it and how to, you want to get where them bass live, especially if the bite's tough. But if you're fishing from the bank and this tree's sticking and it's facing you like this, okay, that's ideal. You want to throw, and work a square bill or a chatterbait or something and come at it. If that tree's out there like that, you do not want to throw anything out that way, no matter how submerged it may be. The limbs going out will hang in those forks. That is not the way to fish that. but you do want to get tight and covered. Grass is about your best friend if you're fishing from the bank. You can slow, what I call slow roll also on a square bill, just barely reel it if you feel something let off. Same thing with the chatterbaits. Of course, any topwater, you know, when the topwater bite, if it's early morning, late afternoon. But even these little pond magics, whether you're at a pond or not, even sometimes in a smaller lakes, and that color right there. But you know, almost any size spinnerbait I like throwing from the bank, or chatterbait, which is probably my favorite thing to throw, whether I'm on the bank, in a boat, or whatever. Chatterbaits are just awesome. As long as you throw that sucker out there and get that blade to spinning, it'll almost go through any kind of cover. These are pretty good once you learn how to use them. Problem is, you cast these things out, and right when they hit, if you hit, you know, a tree stump or whatever, they can get caught fairly easily also. So just, you have to pay a little, you know, they're not a completely snag-free bait. But when you talk about baits that are, you can kind of go into soft plastics like Texas rigging. So I'll show you those real quick. And what I recommend, like say if you're going out, say if you're just going out fishing and you've tried everything you're trying, just gets hung up constantly. You're like, Charlie, I'm sucking in the grass. It like gets caught up. I can get the bait back, but I'm scaring fish away. That's what got me into the 16th ounce jigs type fishing. Mainly a shaky head, but various other ones. And they make several different kinds, and that's what I recommend. If you're a bank fisherman, these little guys can be your best friend. You can rig them up with a lot of different soft plastics, completely weedless, and they're the same thing. Once you get that head coming at you, and maybe never quite stop, just, you know, get the hang of telling where you're close to the bottom or dragging it across the bottom. And they're not crazy expensive if you do lose a jig. But you can rig up shaky head, craws, you know, whatever on a, and there's several different styles. That's a Bagley's 16th ounce, that's a VMC 16th ounce, and the other one I had was, I believe it's just a different style of VMC. I believe these two are just different styles of VMC. Don't hold me to that, but I'm pretty sure they are. They're all 16th ounce. That's the three main that I use and I recommend. And like I said, well, I just mixed those all up. I pulled an Emily, just threw them down in a hole, didn't matter. But once you rig these up, and it doesn't matter what type of soft plastic you're using, Texas style, hook them back in. This bait can be pulled through all kinds of stuff, and it's not too heavy where it sinks down and gets caught up itself. So you can pretty much pull that through everything, fish it slow, it's finesse bait. But you can also put on like a curly tail and throw it out and just reel it back slow, or you've heard and seen the TRDs. Pretty much every bait. You can also rig swim baits up on a, now maybe not that size on that size of a jig head, but same kind of thing to get that weedless approach when you're bank fishing. So anyway, I hope you guys like that quick, informative video I put out. I mean, this isn't for people, you know, if you fished a while, you're like, yeah, Charlie, I know. But some of you that are new to fishing and you're struggling with bank fishing, a lot of times what you're using can decide whether you have a good or bad day. Lose, even if they're $5 baits, you go out and lose $4 or $5 baits, and you're like, man, I just lost those. I gotta go track them back down again. I didn't even catch anything. It's all about how you approach the water, and you know, watch videos on guys out there fishing from the bank. We fish from the bank sometimes. But rod and reels, that's pretty much whatever you use, as you can use whether you're in a boat or in a bank. Length, that's all personal preference. Generally, the longer the rod, you can get a little longer cast, but sometimes even in a boat or from the bank, if you tend to be that tight fisherman that wants that certain spot you're aiming for, or you got a lot of trees around where you're fishing, you may not want that 7'3" rod. You may want a 6'6" to get in tight, maybe even a 5'6" if you're really in some, you know, back in the woods type areas that you're fishing from. It's all, you know, bushes and trees everywhere around. So I'm gonna get out of here. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, help share this channel, and whatever you do, get out and bass and bonsai for yourself. Thanks for watching. All right, I'm done. I'll talk about everything from the bank. Oh yeah, real quick, get a kayak. I watched Charles out there. Now, kayaks may not be for me. I might try it this next season, but If you're fishing from the bank and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do, get a kayak. I know you got to sit down. I don't like sitting down either. But if that's all you can afford, get one, get out on the water. In my personal opinion, fishing in a boat is way more fun than fishing from the bank, just hands down. I still fish from the bank, but only when I kind of have to. Or if it's a small enough pond, body of water, then yeah, sometimes a boat is overkill. But a kayak is awesome. And the Bass Baby like I have, that's why I recommend. I can stand up, fish out of it just like I would a bass boat. All right, I gotta go. Exactly how we do it. Big largemouth bass. Let's see if it'll jump. That is a beauty. We're gonna jump. Yeah! Woo!